I was exposed to provocative imagery and fapping at quite a young age. I remember getting home, and if I was lucky, MTV would be playing some kind of like rap music video with very provocative imagery of females. They be looking mad plump. You know, I got my dish remote and I'm trying to pause it on the exact right frames. And then if you have Wi-Fi and you gain access to something like a tablet or a computer, you're exposed to the internet, which basically puts a 10x multiple on the extremity of adult content that you can find. I mean, even just the regular apps we use, like on my iPod, I had iFunny, Instagram 9gag. If you did enough digging, you can come across some pretty erotic imagery. So this addiction got a hold of me very early on, and like a lot of men, straight off the bat, I didn't really know there was anything wrong with it. There was and still is just a major lack of education in this area. Of course, you have parents and pastors and grandparents saying, you shouldn't do that because God. But as a young kid, that really doesn't hold up to all of a Western society embracing this propaganda that everyone does it, it's not bad for you, it's completely normal. It would certainly be a rare case for a parent to sit their child down and be like, listen buddy, if you indulge in those pleasures, it will feel good temporarily, but long term it's going to addict you and lower your dopamine baseline, which will destroy your motivation. It'll also negatively impact your social skills, mental, emotional health, cognitive function, sexual performance, and much more. But obviously that never happened to me, so by the time I became aware of the downsides, I was already deeply rooted in an addiction that has been rewiring my brain for years. So here are what I find to be the 5 core pillars of NoFap. These are the things that helped me break free from the stranglehold that such an addiction had on me. Number 1 would be finding your purpose. You know, they say idle hands are the devil's workshop, and that was especially true for me. I simply had absolutely no purpose. So with all this free time devoid of purpose, I would just kind of default to the most stimulating, pleasurable action I could do. For a lot of people, this alone may be the greatest factor, is that they are simply fapping to escape the lack of purpose they have in their life. I understand that this may sound a little too general, but that's the reason I put it in the number 1 so we can kind of get through it. However, the reason I put this in here is because I do think it's one of the biggest factors in terms of people fapping all day. So what you can do is, if you are completely void of purpose, is to start broad, and then over time it'll kind of niche down into exactly what you want to do, exactly what you think your life purpose is. Number 2, I find to be very useful, and that is understanding your antithesis. Doing this requires you to get extremely honest with yourself, and it gets pretty dark. Basically, envision the path that this addiction, this practice is bringing you down, and picture the worst case scenario. I mean, you really getting completely dependent, completely addicted. It's messed up your brain in so many ways. You've gotten to the point where your mental health is in complete shambles. You are completely dependent on this addiction. Your dopamine baseline is so low. You're defaulting to the most extreme forms of content to get anything up there. It is basically guaranteed suffering. And what you're doing is you're bringing that suffering into the current moment, which will help you in temporarily suffering in this current moment by abstaining from the thing that your mind and body wants you to do so very bad. Because you know that this temporary suffering avoids this long-term, much worse, much darker suffering. And on the flip side, you can also invert that and remind yourself of the long-term benefits of abstaining from fapping. Number 3 is shifting identity. This is, instead of viewing yourself as and accepting the identity of a an addict, you shift it into someone who is driven by purpose, embraces discipline, who is oriented towards long-term goals instead of this temporary quick dopamine pleasure. To do this, you can utilize tools such as positive affirmations, journaling, visualization, as these methods of self-hypnosis, which will program your subconscious mind into slowly, truly adopting that identity, which will give you much more strength in combating the urges that are associated with a pornography addiction. Because don't be mistaken, even if you shift your identity, the urges will still come. So it's not going, I am someone who never gets tempted. It's going, I am someone who resists temptation. And you'll find that once this takes root into your subconscious, it will make you make unconscious decisions that push you more towards the goals and breaking the addictions, rather than now you probably experience, you make some unconscious decisions that land you in situations that you are prone to relapsing. Number 4 is practice mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness and presence is essentially reverting to the default way of being. Instead of being this overstimulated, narrowly focused, constantly being bombarded by thoughts, mental state, you are instead a pulled back observer of consciousness. You know, the sights, the sounds, the thoughts, you are the observer of this instead of the almost victim being attached to and attacked by all of it. As you practice mindfulness, you'll be able to catch these urges and these thoughts trying to pull you towards relapsing much quicker, and also, like I said, with this pulled back perspective where instead of it pops in and you're identifying with it and you're like, I'm the one saying that I should do this and I should relapse, you're observing the thought but you don't identify with it. You're not giving it that power. You know that that isn't you. It is simply an appearance and consciousness, and it will pass. My personal favorite tool for this is meditation. It essentially taught me how to be present and mindful and has drastically improved my mental health in general. I'll include in the description a link to a guided meditation from me if you're interested in that. You can also try things like journaling down your thoughts, going on walks, just basically destimulized from you're not listening to podcasts or music, as well as just in general throughout your day, trying to consciously remind yourself to pull back and take that observer form. This is going to allow you to slow down and simply allow everything to rest as it is in consciousness. The sights, the sounds, the sensations, the thoughts, which is kind of a form of meditation. This is essentially bringing mindfulness and presence into any given moment, which will be extremely beneficial when you're in those critical moments where everything in your mind and body is trying to convince you to relapse. So number 5 seems to be the most powerful tool. However, for me at least personally, it was the hardest to understand and utilize, and that is transmutation, sexual transmutation. Admittedly, while I try to practice this, I am no expert. However, I know that people such as Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, is a huge advocate for this and attributes a lot of the success and creativeness and drive from this practice. I think there is actually a slew of highly successful men in the past that have used sexual transmutation as a tool to unlock this next level creativity, focus, thinking, drive, whatever. The main idea of this is that the human mind responds to stimuli, and through this it is able to ramp up into higher levels of vibration. I know that sounds kind of wooey, but keep following me, because these higher rates of vibration are what we know as intense creativity, imagination, desire, focus, etc. And basically there's this list of stimuli, there's things on it such as the desire for fame, music, auto-suggestions, and then negative stuff like fear, narcotics. The number one, the highest stimuli for the mind is the desire for sexual expression. Now, before I lose you, don't worry, I'm gonna make this into something practical that you can understand and apply. As men, we are by default wired for one of our main focuses and goals to be attracting a female and reproducing. And out of all driving factors, out of all stimuli, this is the strongest one. So it makes sense that when your brain kind of finds this hack to unlock that satisfaction and scratch that itch, that it becomes so addicted and will do anything to have you do that, to have you relapse. And what we want to do is take that energy and turn it into creative, focused, productive energy. And while at the base level, it does kind of mean getting women as motivation to work towards productive, positive things in your life. It's important that we don't confuse this with putting on a pedestal. So what you do is you take that and you broaden it into imagining if the ideal woman, better yet, the top 1% of all women were watching your every move. You would want to be the most ideal, most actualized version of yourself. You're not going to sit around jerking off all day. So what transmutation is just leveling up this energy. So it's this core thing of I want to beat off, to maybe I want to attract women and get a date, to I want to sleep with women, to I want to attract a long-term relationship with the highest value woman I can. Even higher to that, to I want to be the most ideal actualized version of myself, to I want to achieve the most ideal perfect life I can. So while maybe the core muse was this idea of an ideal woman or a sexual interaction or whatever, you build off that into this grand scheme of just full self-improvement, honestly. Just maxing out yourself and achieving the goals you want to achieve with that energy. It's kind of think about those stereotypical hero stories where maybe he's a loser and he has a crush on this girl, and then he goes on this life-altering journey into becoming the Giga Chad hero that has accomplished all these things and has drastically made his life and those around him better. And then he gets the girl, and it's yeah, he got the girl, but look at all of this good he caused for his own life. You took that core desire, transmuted it up, and used it to create a new reality for yourself. Instead of making love to your hand, making love to a woman, you're making love to life. You are wanting the best relationship with life as possible. This one is definitely something I do need to do more research and introspection about. So if I ever get an even deeper and more fleshed out understanding of this, maybe I can make more content based off just the idea of sexual transmutation itself. However, I'd like to think I gave you enough of an understanding to be able to start to implement that idea into your life and into your battle with desire and lust. If you'd like a PDF about the 5 pillars with all the main key points so you can have that reminder easily to access on your phone or computer, there's a link in the description below. You'll also see the link to my fitness course if that's something you want to pursue and learn how to just perfect and optimize your fitness journey in terms of from training to supplementation to nutrition to mindset and more. If you're on the NoFap journey, I think it's pretty safe to assume you want to become a more masculine male because it will allow you to both attract more women as well as just simply become more successful and fulfilled in general. So if that's you, click the video on the screen right now where I explain the 8 steps that I took to become more masculine. I hope this video helped you. That is all I got. Bye-bye.